welcome everyone. It's good to see you. I sent out a notice, of course, of this meeting, and for those of you who haven't given me email addresses, please do, and I'll send you regular notices because we meet every Wednesday here. But I suggested, because I had heard an article about what we call in the science world a unifying theory. Is there one unifying theory of the way the right, the Republicans, the Christian right, and so on operate in our world today? And are they in fact corrupt, and will they do anything for money? Is money that they, so is it because of campaign contributions by business leaders that people get elected at the federal level, why we have Rick Scott as a senator, for example, and let's look down at our city level in Palm Coast. Is it that the politicians, our elected officials on the city council, were bought by builders, developers, and so on, and so without giving any thought to infrastructure, particularly water availability and wastewater treatment ability, did they just go ahead and fold in the face of these builders and developers? Go build as many houses as you want, and we'll worry about the wastewater and freshwater availability at some time in the future. And so we're all going to wind up paying. So, by the way, the way they folded was by diminishing or making sure there were not very strong impact fees. When you build a new house, you have to pay an impact fee to help cover the infrastructure. The impact fee falls, of course, for the developer or the builder to collect when they sell the house, and that's the developers and so on have been opposed to it. So is this all about money in the form of campaign contributions? Is that a unifying theory, or is there some other reason why the right behaves the way it does?
Social media,
No.
I think is a big part of it. 24-hour news, I think is a big part of it. People get into a bubble and they don't have to get out because they can get their feed at any time.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the problem right there.
I would agree with you. I have friends and acquaintances that I communicate with up and back. All of their news, all of their opinions are based upon social media of a certain bent. And the certain bent is the far right.
Yep.
And to have a discussion with them is almost impossible.
Yeah, let me tell you what I just read in the last several days, and I think this came out of Pew Research. I think that's where I read it. They had the political spectrum covering about 9 different locations, positions, from the far left Bernie Sanders type people and people to the left that's Bernie Sanders, such as myself, and the far right MAGA. The far left is only roughly 6% of the voting population, and the far right is 9%. So it's that 15% that's controlling the opinions. Now, as far as social media goes, what they found was people spend more time on social media when they have something that they're angry with. It's anger that keeps them active on social media. So it's that 15% that's creating the anger that makes social media so popular. So I found that interesting. So.
Yeah.
And Pew Research is, I consider it a reliable source. So you always have to justify where you read it. So
I believe it's common sense. Maybe it's not common. You could argue with me that people who are satisfied and happy don't say very much, and people who are angry and discontented people, and there are people who, by line of work, we always talk about people who are chronically unhappy. No matter what you do, they're going to bitch and moan. And
I think I was married to her.
Well, they say that for every one happy customer you have, there are 10 miserable people saying behind your back all the things that are wrong with your company that you never heard.
Right.
So it's those 10 people to worry about if you're trying to promote a product or your a store or what have you.
Yeah.
And we have a lot more than 10 miserable people in this country right now.
Yes, we do, and that's unfortunate. Once again, we all grew up in a country where well, everybody here, I would imagine, learned in elementary school that George Washington chopped down a cherry tree and then said, "I cannot tell a lie." What happened to that ideal? That the truth mattered.
It was a false story.
Well, by the way, right, it was made up by Pastor Weem. By the way, it was first presented in 1832. Washington was born in 1732, and so it was on the centennial of his birth that story it came out.
I'd like to really recommend that people listen to the Fresh Air podcast that was today's selection. And it talks about the possibility of having the New York Times versus Sullivan opinion, which is the most consequential free speech case that has come up to the Supreme Court. It was decided in 1964, and they talked to an author of a brand new book that's just been published. His name is David Enrich, and the book is called Murder the Truth. And it talks about that first case where a very, very rich guy, whose name is going to escape me at the moment, just remember I'm 76. His name isn't going to come to me, but he didn't like the way a specific company called Ep.5 or something had written about them. And so he hired several teams of lawyers, and he had them go through and learn everything about this company, their financial basis, the people that worked for them, the people that subscribed to them, etc. And then they started going after all those people. We are talking multiple, dozens of lawsuits, and how he managed to drive this company into bankruptcy, and how it got a lot of attention from really rich people, including our now current person who's heading our government. And
Which one?
Who shall
I had
remain
trouble getting it out of my mouth, okay? And some of you are going to be eating soon. I don't want to get sick. So,
No, it's the one who wears
so
a jacket and tie, or the one who wears a t-shirt?
right.
It
So
says tech.
right. So he has started implementing this, but now he controls the reins of government. Okay. And you've been reading about him using the Department of Justice to go after some of the people that, if you're an FBI agent and your boss said you were to investigate thus and such, you had to investigate it. And now you have been laid off and fired maybe 2 years from you're getting your pension because you did your job, okay? The same thing is happening to the people in the Department of Justice, the lawyers who did anything in the last 4 years are out the door, okay? And he is now using this on people who protested against Palestine, okay? For Palestine, sorry.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the rest of you, so Mr. Trump, be aware, yes, I support the Palestinian people, and yes, what is going on there is a genocide, and yes, we have allowed it and participated in it. My family was Irish, and we've been over here for 200 years, but I'm sure they can find a way to deport me if they really want to. And that is something you all are going to have to face. If they are going to start going farther back and getting rid of birthright as well, how far back are we going to do this?
I've already said they don't have to go very far back for me. My father was an illegal, so.
Yeah, and actually I wouldn't mind being sent to Ireland, but these days Ireland's looking pretty good. But be aware, next to birthright and all of the little bills going through to take away your voter rights, getting rid of free speech is at the top of their agenda.
And birthright citizenship, of course, is in the Constitution and requires a constitutional amendment to.
But if they can, he can change it, he can change
If-
anything in the
if-
Constitution.
That's true. By the way, so the technique, and I've been a victim of this, by the way, and you may have as well. Someone brings a lawsuit against you. They don't have to win the lawsuit, but you have to go out and spend
Lots of money.
buku bucks to defend it, and that's how you get bankrupted. And that's the end. So the case can have no merit, but you've got to hire
Sort of more
lawyers.
expensive.
So FBI agents is one example, but people in all arms of government who are getting fired would go out and have to hire an attorney, and they, of course, will have to pay for it. The other side is paid for by us, the taxpayers, and that's where it's.
Does anybody have a
What the-
running count of how many people have been fired so far?
Yeah.
From like all the different departments, I'm wondering?
It's gonna be pretty high because they just announced 70,000 from the VA.
Yes.
And that's fairly new, so they're well beyond those figures.
Yeah.
So,
And they want to keep it out of the jobs report for next month. They also want to change the figures being used for the gross national product. They want to
Right,
take a whole
yeah.
bunch of it out of that, which will skew the figures so that nobody can trust them for anything, including, by the way, your cost of living increase. Not that we're going to have Social Security that much longer anyway, but, you know.
So are they all gonna go on unemployment insurance?
I would think they have to, yeah. Or I shouldn't say have to, but I think they will. I would, I think if anybody would. Fire me, I'm gonna get whatever I can back out of you. So,
They'll probably start using things like these First Amendment cases to keep you from getting it because, you know, you're up for losing your
Some reason
citizenship.
or other. That's,
Yeah.
So the you know, where are we going? Do we as liberal thinking, and liberal is a dirty word, so I'm supposed to use the word progressive. Do we as progressive, do we have a unified strategy and way in which we should proceed? Are our leaders providing that? Who are our leaders? And
my answer, you only have one leader. And yes, he's doing everything that should be done, and his name is Bernie Sanders.
okay.
He should be in his second term of presidency right now.
Have you seen his rallies?
Yes,
You see
exactly.
all
That's what
the
I'm
people
saying.
there?
I love what I'm
He's doing it
seeing.
again.
Yeah.
I love what I'm seeing. I do, I love what I'm seeing from the
Bless
guy.
his heart.
He's on tour now.
And he's going into traditional red areas. Okay, small communities, rural communities.
We're
that's
not
where
gonna
he's
make it 4 years. I'm trying to choose between alcohol and religion, for God's sake.
I think Bernie Sanders' strategy is not about Bernie Sanders is not gonna run again. 4 years from now, he's gonna be 85, 86 years old. I think the strategy is, at least I'm hoping what it is in 2026, I think you're gonna see a large wave of socialist-minded representatives elected in the midterms. And then 2028, then you start looking at the presidency. But if you get a socialist-minded legislative branch, they can pretty much hold up anything the president wants.
Yeah, they can impeach as well.
So, right, exactly.
Then we'd have President J.D. Vance.
Well,
And I don't, I shouldn't say it is a bad thing.
Be a
But
waste
I don't, you know, as I've been saying so many times, I don't trust the Democrats anyway. So if I have to risk 4 years of J.D. Vance in order to get a socialist president and legislator together in 8 years, that's the risk I'm willing to take. I want socialists in there. I don't want liberals in there. I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
Yeah,
Frying pan and fire.
Yeah.
right. So,
But we already passed socialism. You don't understand that, do you?
You really
And as
believe?
soon as Trump takes away all this, he's gonna educate all the people about how much they're missing. And you better believe it, that's gonna be a big one.
I don't really believe that we are guaranteed an election in 2026 anymore.
No, we're not.
no,
I'm not I don't think it's
He's
guaranteed.
not letting go.
It's up for grabs.
yeah.
But then it's gonna put people in the streets. And Bernie's gonna be there whipping them up.
Okay, so what is Bernie's message to us? Before,
Or
by the way,
he's doing.
and then in a minute, we're gonna turn to Joanne Ford, our vice president of optimism.
You may be disappointed.
What I interpret his message to be is a message to unify people, not special interest people, okay? And that has to be based on equality for everybody. That's his message, and I think the same thing could be happening right here in Flagler County. So, all you need is a leader, that's all.
His message at the rally was that we cannot afford to do what I know several people that have done, is put the covers over their head. And so there needs to be action, and talking about 26 is one thing, and 28, we got a scorched earth issue right now. So what's actually making an impact is Elon's business is tanked. But what are people doing? Beyond the torching, people are not buying Teslas. So he's lost a lot of money.
29 million.
And the same is
Which is less than 10% of his net
yeah.
worth.
No, he's lost a lot, and he's
Well, 29
suffering.
billion is less than 10% of his net
Well,
worth.
He's still got
okay, but I don't
SpaceX,
know
they
about
still
the
got SpaceX, by
29,
the
I
way,
think
which
it's
is
more than that, and he's
supported
losing.
by government contracts. That's the,
Right.
that's the corruption of it.
Questionable, why does he have them? I mean, he's got a 50% failure rate. They sent up 8, 4 of them blew up. That's a 50% failure rate.
You want to hear the socialist response to that? As Bernie Sanders himself has said, tax 100% of the wealth over 999 million. There is no reason for anybody to be a billionaire. Bernie Sanders said that. That's the answer to it. Take the money away from them, right?
Well,
That's what socialism
the
is
only
doing.
people that can in office to do
Go
that.
ahead.
We have to have someone in office willing to do that.
You have to have a
We know
socialist
the-
legislator.
We know the answer, it's just we don't have, what the person that's in the office and has the power is acting quite
That's
differently.
why I said a
So,
socialist legislative branch is what you need, and preferably if you get one that's veto-proof.
all right, we're gonna do this tonight?
You're not gonna do anything till 2026.
Well,
Well,
what I'm saying is there's plenty that can be done, and that's what
And that's
Bernie
what's
is trying
organized.
to whip up, is action now.
And I'm saying you can do what he's doing right here in
Another
Flagler
example
County.
besides
Example
the
of what
felon.
we can do now.
Well, there is many demonstrations going around the country that legacy media is not covering. So we go and we see it on our favorite podcaster stations or whatever, but they're not out there to everybody. But, if they run into a traffic jam because of demonstrations, or they see them driving down their town, did you see what happened in Vermont when JD tried to go skiing? And then also all of the, in towns all around, even out of the country, they are against, what are they doing outside of our country? They're against
Well, Canada,
Elon?
yeah.
Huh? Congress blocked the people driving to Alaska up through Canada. They
They're
blocked the roads
charging,
and all that,
yes. And another thing is that we do have a lot of the European and other countries who came to the rescue of Ukraine. So this is making him look bad, his plan isn't working and all of that stuff. So again, it's action now. We don't need to talk about 2026. It's only 2025.
I think we have
Well,
to
speaking of
organize
action
right now
now,
for
please, let's say one
2026.
more time, action now, we have an election April 1st.
Yes.
The week before is early voting. Please get your votes in and out and vote for your candidate of choice, but vote, 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 vote.
Josh.
So who are the excellent organizers? Because it probably does
And-
start with organization at the federal and the local level. And then whatever is decided, it needs to be really simple.
Yes,
Because the simpler it is, the more actionable it is.
yes. And I think it's an education problem. I think people have to be educated that socialism it only appears to be bad because the right wing told us it's a bad thing. They brainwashed us into not wanting socialism. There's nothing wrong with socialism. It's a good system. So,
Yeah, but
And capitalism has.
it's a message that's going to resonate with the people we need to bring over to our side.
I think the message is to unify people That's what socialism is. That's what the word comes from, okay? It's to unify people.
Our police departments are so. is it
Fire departments,
socialist
police
convention,
departments,
Fire
right.
department, postal
Veterans
service.
Administration.
We all fund it and we get the services
Right,
from it.
exactly.
That's socialism.
That's socialism,
We're
right?
living in
That's what I
so
said.
much of it in our lives right now.
That's what I said, we have to organize and educate voters.
I think to answer your question, I think the only action that is open to most of us is just the demonstrations, flag wavings, which there are quite a few here. Unfortunately.
There's
Victor
one
doesn't-
tonight for Ukraine.
Okay, yeah, we have quite a few, so if you want to get on those lists to be notified.
Is that the one in Ormond Beach?
No, it's here in Flagler.
I think it's parallel too, there's also one.
I would think more organizations like this right here, these discussion groups, use organizations like this to do the educating part, okay? You want to create an army of knowledgeable socialist thinkers.
But I believe strongly, and it's been referred to several times here and in past weeks, Al Kramer's not here unfortunately, we have to break out of our bubble. We keep talking to each other about, we're trying to convince them, we're trying to preach to the choir, we're trying to convince those who are already convinced.
How do you deal with someone who says, oh, I can't take any more news, I don't want to hear any more negative news, and they want to just put their head in the sand, and you go, but you can't put your head in the sand because this is going to affect you directly, you know?
You know what I would
And
tell
they
them?
don't believe you, and then they come back to you a week later and say, you know, you were right about the VA, my paperwork isn't gonna go anywhere because they laid off all those people. And I'm like, well, honey, you voted for them, you know?
Here's what I would tell them. If you want to put your head in the sand, get out of this room, we don't need you. That's what I would tell them. And when I was going through training for Vietnam, we called that ringing the bell. Anybody could drop out if they wanted, because if you weren't prepared to do what was asked of you, going into a combat situation, we don't want you with us.
I think that's what's
Get out.
going on in this country right
So,
now. I
that's what I
feel
would
like
get.
it's as bad as it was
Makes
with
sense?
the Vietnam War.
It's ringing the bell. It's ringing the bell.
But it's, you know, it's the whole thing, you gotta watch my back.
Everybody
Everybody has,
exactly. You get everybody involved. If they don't want to be involved, so ask them to leave. You know. I'm
So
sorry.
you're saying that the military already has the framework in place?
A military.
Or whatever it is that
Yeah,
you're
okay,
describing?
I'm saying,
the
yeah, looking at the
policies,
military,
protocol.
but that's kind of specialized training within the military. You're going into a war zone, you're gonna be an active combatant, especially in special operations type environments. Yeah, you want everybody with you to have gone through the same training you went through, and they chose to stay in that training. Like what I went through, we could drop out anytime we want. We didn't have to go, I was Navy, I didn't have to go to Vietnam. I could have dropped out anytime I wanted. I didn't want to drop out, and everybody around me felt the same way.
And
So
there
my
was a
question, though,
difference
is-
between enlisted and
Not
Door
Navy
knocks,
Special
right?
Warfare. Navy Special Warfare, there was no difference between
You know,
enlisted and
but
well, the
military.
way that in the military right now, the benefits and the things that are being done to the enlisted is very different than what's happening to the officer level. And so that is going to split the military eventually if they keep it up.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
I was just thinking conceptually about the ability to use some aspects of it, maybe the big model of it, and then modify it down
To what we
where
can
it
use.
could
To
be
what we can use.
beneficial.
It's creating camaraderie. It's creating camaraderie.
That's what I'm talking about.
Which is another word of using socialism. We're reunited. We believe in each other. Okay? That's what we do. We believe in each other.
Another thing that came to mind is there's a postcard writing campaign for the 15th to send to, I believe, the White House, and those kinds of activities, which usually I find out about only on social media. So those kinds of things that we can do to take action. The phone calls, the 5 phone call app. Are you familiar with that?
I've been seeing something on social media that
Yeah.
is indicating.
Yeah.
So that's calling all of the, and so the guy that voted with the Republicans, the one Dem, the Lewiston, Maine,
Yeah.
Jared Golden, his office needs phone calls and tell him, I don't like what you did. You don't need to tell him I'm not from Maine. Just get a message or get a person or send an email or do whatever. but just the more we bombard them with our oppositions.
There's also an app called Goods Unite Us,
Yeah.
where you can check every, you know, well, not every, but you can check the listing as to they've donated to, whether they've donated to the Republicans or Democrats or neither, you know, which gets them green, you know, the happiest with no donations, down to product level, you know,
So
every
yeah,
single time you shop,
changing
you can look it
the-
up, as you're going down the grocery aisle, you just look up A through Z, you just click on the name and you can see who they voted for. And
Is that the
shop with-
list, is that the list that they sent out with the blackout, the economic blackout from Friday?
Yeah.
There's a big list of all the
Yeah,
companies,
United.
especially the food companies, is
Yes,
that what you're
well,
referring
to
to?
all companies, whether you're gonna try to buy a car, who have they donated
Right,
to?
like,
If
and
you're-
also Delta
Yeah,
and
and down to
Hobby
your
Lobby and-
toothpaste, your toothpaste is on the list.
I think Target had some negative impact from all of this DEI crap, and then Costco had a positive impact. So we are making a difference.
Assembly Required is a podcast by Stacey Abrams, and every week, not this past week, but all the other ones I've listened to, she takes a specific topic and she has some guest speakers come in, and then at the end of her program, she tells you what you can be doing locally, positively, to make a difference. And Stacey Abrams is
Assembly
awesome.
Required.
Assembly Required.
Well, that's basically what she's saying is, we've got to organize.
Right.
We've got to
Also-
organize, it all starts with
Also,
organizing.
keep an eye out for Reverend Warnock, also from Georgia. Oh my goodness.
I'm not hearing that, can you spell?
Warnock.
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 Yeah, he's WARNOCK.
He is a representative from the state of Georgia,
He can speak.
and he also is a preacher, so he's a good,
Yeah, Senator Warnock, yeah.
he's a good speaker because he's a preacher, okay? And he also holds the church he is preaching from is the same one as Martin Luther King.
Ebenezer.
Yeah.
Ebenezer Baptist.
Martin Luther King and Martin Luther King Senior.
And he's a good,
You know what, but I think we're missing, maybe it's too obvious, but we have an election coming up on April 1st.
I'm gonna vote for him.
I don't think the question is whether we're gonna vote for him, or are we gonna talk to the people who live in the left, as we walk out our front door? How about the people who live in the house on the
There
left?
is a
How about the people who
concern.
live in the house on the right? How about, we need to reach those people, and in fact, there are those who have said we should not be writing postcards and urging Democrats to come out, although we clearly should, but we need to reach the NPA's, no party affiliates.
There is
even
a
though-
concerted, if Vicki were
Yeah.
here, she could fill us in
Yeah, all right.
accurately, but there is a concerted effort of door knockers for Josh. There's also boots on the ground, a lot of activity for Josh.
Yeah.
I have faith that he will win.
There's a rally today at 3 for
Well,
I
let me
disagree.
my Josh party. I'm gonna buy the Josh wine to serve at my Josh party when he wins.
Josh is a brand of wine if you're not.
But
Not
anyway,
connected with Josh Wheel, but that's.
door knocking on veterans, I'm not veterans, it's me, I'm a minute behind. On Democrats, it is important because many of them don't even know their special election.
Right, and that's the problem.
Right, you have to, there again, it's education.
Yeah, yeah.
my pool guy this morning, I went outside to talk to him, I asked him if he knew there was a special election, he had no idea what the hell I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's because he probably has his nose to the ground working 24 hours, just trying to make ends meet down there. Where the minimum pay is so ridiculous, they have to work 24 hours a day just to pay their
Or
mortgage.
2 jobs.
Two jobs.
So there are things to do, but there isn't a concerted, organized, you know.
How many people here are canvassing?
So-
Boots on the
How
ground.
many people in here canvassing for Wheel?
I signed up, but I.
I'm joining the,
Sending emails.
I missed what you were saying.
There isn't.
I just said there's not a concerted effort for putting all this together. I found, living in Florida, everything is piecemeal. Even the Democrat clubs, they're spread out instead of one organized, bigger place, group that can meet together and be, I think, more beneficial. But you gotta go over here to this meeting and that meeting, they're all smaller size. So I find that in Florida. But there isn't and then the Dems are getting not harassed, but negative impact from constituents, and they are beginning to hold town halls. We have Jasmine and AOC speaking out, as well as Bernie and a few others. I heard somewhere, I saw on Facebook, the Tallarico guy, the Texan pastor, who does not believe in the Christian nationalist attitudes and things, and has more of a normal actual Christian. He was in a group of Democrats who were supposed to get together and do something, but the Dems, nationally have been so laid back and doing nothing. But
They
luckily,
can't decide.
we have a lot of people out playing those signs and burning Teslas and their Chargers.
After they had that gentleman taken out for raising his cane and talking about
Green.
and he needed 8 people to usher out this 79-year-old man. The next thing that President Trump said was that he had restored freedom of speech in this country. At which point, the Democrats should have laughed their asses off.
Yes, I know.
They should
I
have
agree.
ridiculed
They did
him.
nothing, they could have made.
They should have made him a
They should have
joke.
Stood up with Al Green and all of that. I agree, they're doing very little, but what are we gonna do?
And Fetterman
Just
just
call
said,
them?
Here and now. Right.
Fetterman just said he's going to vote with the,
He's no longer Dem, not officially, but.
the
we
new
don't
budget
like him
thing.
I think there was also
It's
10
ridiculous.
Democratic Congress people that voted to censure Al Green, wasn't there?
Yes.
Yes.
So those are
So
the ones you really need to look at. Like I said, I'm not a Democrat, but those are your vishy Democrats. Those are the ones that need to be.
And then from New York, by the way. There was-
You understand?
Yeah, upstate.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
The other thing is, there was another Green, Marjorie Green, who pulled the same antics, and nobody censored her.
Exactly.
They
Well,
just
no,
let
they
her
weren't
go
just
on
it was
and
both
Exactly.
the Bimbo twins, both of them.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody got that.
Lauren
Exactly.
Boebert as well. Yeah, it was.
More than
unfair.
one.
So at the state,
And I have to ask whether there's a racial component in there as well.
so at the State of the Union, did anyone count how many lies? If his lips are moving, he is lying.
Yeah.
And that word, I believe, what I see, that word is out, whereas, remember when Biden first got in office? Nobody ever said anything like that. But now it's daily news, unless you sit in front of Fox, and you're part of that. But luckily, that's a smaller percentage of people in this country. And I believe if we had an election now, they would see, quite a bit of, different results.
Slippage.
Because so many are disappointed in what happened. Oh, I didn't know we were gonna take my benefits
And the
away.
stock market falling 900 points in one day.
That's what it takes.
And then that's what's doing it too, is Tesla's.
It's gonna be far more effective than any demonstration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the wicked felt.
At a certain point, I presume people's home will recognize their home values are going down. Water rates locally are going to go sky high. Wastewater facilities need to be built, and people will be affected, and then they will be angry.
And we have a mayor now who's flip-flopping left and right, you don't know what he's gonna say next. So right now, he's flipped, so what's that next time? What can we believe coming out of his mouth now, changing his mind?
He's just following the lead. He's following the lead. is all.
But that's why I believe there's a unified theory from, we have all looked at what goes on in the federal, and then we gets lots of attention, the front page of the paper, it's on all the TV news. Of course, what happens locally, we would separate that out. But I believe we're beginning to see something in common, that these people winning elections, which requires money, is much more important than maintaining integrity, behaving morally, behaving ethically, being honest. I think all those things go out the window. Getting elected is the most important thing. The era, who said I'd rather be right than president?
Yeah,
That era is
I
gone.
don't know that there's anybody in America that don't already know that, and that's what I want to go back to. I think the important thing is to organize and educate the people who don't think that way. Everybody knows how they are. Criticize anymore when people start criticizing Trump, criticizing him. My answer to all of it is, so what? Did you not expect this to be coming? I knew it was coming.
Well, you know what?
My answer is, so what? I ignore them. I ignore them.
I'll fall back on my statement. Logic has no, and intellectualizing has no role to play here. People, you can't talk to people. But go ahead. And then we're gonna
Fox
Fox
News has.
Excuse me, Fox Entertainment.
Yes,
Yeah.
the fake it news entertainment channel has kind of flipped too, and kind of calling truth
Do
a
see
little
this.
bit.
Do see
If you can trust Fox News.
Some.
Entertainment, they're no longer allowed to call themselves news.
Yeah.
Entertainment.
And that's a court
Yeah.
position. It says
They're gonna
you can't
flip-flop
expect
no
them.
matter
We have to control that narrative.
Yeah.
It's
They're
not
gonna
for
flip-flop.
news, it's entertainment.
Depending on how the money is flowing. Whatever's gonna attract better money flow for them, they're gonna flip-flop in that direction.
I'm
I
just
don't trust
saying
anything they
that the
do.
word out on the street for these maggots that are sitting in front of that tube are gonna hear Fox News say negative things about the economy
And they're
because
gonna-
of Trump.
Yeah.
Go like
No.
this, every time you think you wanna call them news, it's entertainment, they are no longer
I
allowed to
know,
call themselves news.
Nonetheless, they're too influential.
Yeah.
At any rate, we'll gather again next Wednesday, and I thank you
Find
all
out
for
what
your
fresh
input.
hell is this.
But yeah, what more to do, and I would urge you to think, since this has come up, what role we around this table have to play. And do we play that role in the wider arena, or do we play it within the Democratic Party here, or in some other organization that we can flap our jaws and flip our tongues all we want, but we're not getting much done? How can we have a greater impact to create a better political environment and ultimately a better community in which we live, locally and regionally, statewide, and nationally? At any rate, so thank you very much, and look forward to your being around this table next week.